Today, I'm talking to one of my favorite Cal offensive linemen of all times. We'll be talking about his pro career, what it's like to win the Dratty Award, which may give it away, and what's going on with the Pac-12 coming up right now. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Ultimate Insider, Bear Insiders podcast. I'm Mike Pawlawski, Hall of Fame Cal quarterback. Today, we're talking to one of my favorite Cal offensive linemen of all times. As you know, a quarterback, the offensive line is your best friend, and your center is especially important. This guy won all kinds of awards, set himself apart as a college player and an NFL player.
Joining me now,
as well.
My favorite all-time center, which is like the position that quarterbacks get most intimate with, is that center spot. Alex Mack. And Alex, if you're a Cal guy and you love Cal players, Alex is as Cal as it gets. We can go through a list of his resume, but it includes the Dratty Trophy while he was at Cal, which is what they call the academic Heisman, now the Campbell Trophy. Graduated early, played his senior year as a graduate student, was a first-round pick in the NFL, was the highest paid, I believe, center for a few years in the NFL, 7 Pro Bowls. Like, he's a Cal guy through and through. 4.2 GPA in high school. Alex, welcome to the Ultimate Insider podcast here, man. I gave a little bit of your resume, so I'm sure you're blushing, but welcome to the podcast.
I'm usually much paler. This is all flushed and feeling special. Thank you for having me on. This is fun to be part of it. You know, Mike, me and you go back a couple of years, so it's great to join you on your podcast.
I mean, we'll start there. We'll start with the really important stuff before we get to, the football. But we'll get, the really important stuff. We did a trip. We started off, we've done, I think, 4 shows now together. But starting off in Guatemala with a fishing show.
Yeah.
And then we've gone to Africa. We've done shooting shows in Atlanta. And so let's talk about those experiences. What was that like for you? You have a travel bug like nobody I've ever met. Talk about that.
Yeah, it was really fun. So, to start off, I think it was Fujita who called me. It was like, hey, this Mike Pawlawski's a Cal quarterback. He has a fishing show. Do you want to be a part of it? It might travel or something. I was like, yes, absolutely. Let's do it. And so it was a great opportunity to, I think it was pretty short notice too. I think it was in 2 weeks, we're going to Guatemala. Are you in? I was like, yes. So it was really fun to go down there and get to see some Guatemala, do some fishing. I like trying new things. I'm not a good fisherman, but it was fun to, join you on the adventure and try to do that. And it just great. And in the off season every year, I'd just try, no matter what, except if there's a global pandemic, to go and to see a new place and use a little bit of time to be active, but not training. So the season would end and it was a great chance. All right, my body is exhausted. Where can I go? What can I do? I would try to buy a ticket to someplace I've never been before and walk around and see the city and do stuff. So Guatemala and fishing trip fell directly in line.
It was perfect. And how did that travel bent for you get started? Where did you start picking that up, going to new places?
When we were kids, one time my family took us all to Europe, and I thought it was amazing to see. I think we saw Spain and London and Paris. So it was this really cool time as a young kid to experience the world and do stuff. And then I never really got to do much more, because football started up and college and I was busy the whole time. And so I always wanted to, and I was always jealous of everybody who went to college, did study abroad. And I would love to do that. I don't have that chance. So I used that as my first opportunity. So played my rookie year, and then I was I want to start traveling and do this. And so I just started going and just doing it every off season. And now I think right now I'm around 55, 60 countries.
That is awesome. So when I was my second year in the NFL with Tampa, in camp with Anthony Munoz down, and he had just come, from Cincinnati. Anthony Munoz, one of the greatest offensive linemen to ever play the game. He said, signing an NFL contract allows you to be more. Like, it doesn't make you better. It doesn't make you worse. It makes you more of what you are. And that, I love that with you, with the travel. Like, you love the travel. You wanted to do it. You sign your NFL contract. You're like, I'm going to do this and be like, this is who I am, which is awesome.
It was fun. So the first trip I did, I went with a buddy and we went to Thailand, bought a ticket in, bought a ticket out, and the rest of it we just did on the fly. So it was really fun to, where do you want to go? And we like found a way to get there and found a hotel room to stay in, and we're in this city. And then, all right, like, where next? And so that's a lot of how the travel I've done has been that way, a little open-ended, a bit, all right, I know I want to go here to here. I have this much time. Let's figure out a way to get there. And it usually works out. I've been a couple times unable to find a way out in emergency hotel room because I can't get out of there.
That's awesome. And English isn't always the first language in a lot of these places.
Say that again. Sorry.
I said English isn't always the first language in a lot of these places that you're going to.
You'd be surprised. Like, go out in a normal day and think about how much you actually need to talk to people. Like, you go to Starbucks and, you can say what's on the menu. You can point to pictures. You don't really need English. And English is such a wide, like, tourist, like, exchange. It just, every country I've been, usually people speak. I went to Korea, South Korea, and
I hope so.
Yeah, North Korea would be a little dicier, but I went there, and it was one of the few times where we went to a restaurant because it was like we're walking through the city, and there was this busy restaurant. It looked really fun. It, like, the food we saw on the table looked great, so let's go there. And they did not speak any English. The whole menu was only in Korean, and there were no pictures. And like, we like mimed our way into like pointing at stuff, and it had a great meal. It worked
just
out.
Walk from table to table pointing at people's food. I want that and
Not quite that bad, but it wasn't far. The restaurant people had to be so like, serve us anything, like more.
Yes. Give me something an American would like, whatever that is. Just bring it.
Yeah, and it helps to be adventurous. Like, if you only wanted cheeseburgers all the time, you might not have as much fun.
Yeah, don't leave the country.
Yeah.
That's
on my stomach.
That is awesome. So let's work. So this year you have the interesting designation of being both a newlywed and a retiree in the same year.
Yeah.
Talk about this year for you. It's a big year.
Yeah. I mean, we were married before. We got married like 2 years ago before COVID because that was going to happen.
Yes.
But we now had to postpone our wedding twice. And so we actually got to have the celebration this year. So it wasn't like marriage has stopped football. That's not exactly what happened there.
No.
But I'm also now retired. I've been 13 years, and that was enough. It was time to hang up the cleats, and unless something drastic happens, like I'm done. I'm pretty happy. My body's telling me it's time, and I want to be able to walk away. So I'm walking away.
And tell me about your new bride. Everybody at home.
Rachel, she's amazing.
I say new bride. You just said 2 years, so you're publicly new bride after the celebration.
So married Rachel. I met her at Cal. She played tennis there. She eventually transferred, but because of Cal, I have that to thank for my lovely wife and the tennis program for recruiting her, and me seeing her at Kips and seeing like that girl. So it's worked out well. We dated a bit in college, and then we took a little break, and then we started up again, and now we're married and we're living the retired life. She's actually working right now remotely.
Yeah, so. She's probably not retired like you're retired.
She's
right?
not retired. I'm retired. Yes. I got to do everything I want.
Yes, and keeping with your travel adventure experience, you did everything over in Ireland. There's a reason for that. Tell everybody at home.
Oh yeah. So we got married in Ireland because Rachel's Irish. She's actually from Dublin with the accent and everything.
Not like Irish, like American Irish. She's like Irish,
She's
born and
actually
bred.
Irish.
Yes.
That gets tough. It's also tough when like we were living in Georgia together, and even here in California, there's a Dublin, California, there's a Dublin, Georgia. So people would be like, "Oh yeah, she's from Dublin." People would just assume Dublin, Georgia.
Right.
And, nope, actually Dublin.
No Dublin, like the original Dublin. Yeah, that is awesome. Congratulations. And then retiring, you talked about it, your body, kind of football career. I remember what it was like when I retired at 31, but I was forced to retire. Like my body made me retire. I wasn't coming back for another year because of my neck. Talk about the decision, all the thought that goes into that, kind of where you're at in terms of like the emotional side of it.
Yeah, it was tough. I remember after COVID, well, the COVID year, COVID's not over, or it is over. Who knows?
There's no telling.
That's more than this podcast can cover. But after my last year in Atlanta, it was the year that like COVID first showed up. We magically got the season done. But the way the season went and the restrictions put on was really, it wasn't a very satisfying year. It wasn't very fun. There was no locker room. We weren't very good. There was a lot of reasons to not quite feel done. But so I was like very on the fence that year. And I wasn't sure, do I sign another contract? What do I do? And eventually it was really hard. I was almost retired. It was this huge emotional, like, is that it? Because I actually didn't get to play the last game that year. I got COVID and I had to quarantine for 10 days. The season ended in that span. And then afterwards I showed up back to the facility and all my stuff was just in a trash bag. Like, yep, here's your stuff. And I was like, that's it? Like there was no players around, no coaches were there anymore. I said bye to the equipment staff, and that was it. I was like, well, that's very unsatisfying. So it left with a very bitter taste in my mouth in terms of like, is this the last thing I'm going to do? And so eventually decided to sign with San Francisco and give it one more go. And I told them, listen, like, I'll give you 1 year. Maybe more, like we'll see how it goes, but I'm thinking one, and signed a 3-year deal with San Francisco. Amazing experience. So happy I did it. Had a great time. Love everyone there. Can't speak high enough for that organization. They were amazing. I wish I had the O-line. Like everything about it was incredible. The O-line coach was amazing. Just learning some new stuff. And year 13 to learn a bunch was a really cool experience for me. I thought I knew like everything I could about playing center and just his system and how he coached things. It was really, really fun. And I can't speak high enough for that experience, but played the year, and then body was hurting all year long. I was the oldest guy on the team behind the kicker. And
and kickers don't have much contact, so they can go till they're like 60.
Yeah, they usually are the oldest people, but and played the year and took some time off, try to heal up after the season. And it was just time. And the decision to hang him up wasn't quite as emotional, because I went into that year really trying to appreciate everything about it, taking a moment and, spending the bus ride to the game, being like, this could be the last one. In that your head. And not that you want to focus on like, everything when you're stressed out and need to worry about, defenses, but it was cool to try to appreciate and understand that, this is like, remember this, be present. And I am able to walk away really feeling like I've accomplished everything I pretty much can and want to. I would love to have 13 Super Bowl rings, but we're not all that lucky.
Yeah, most people aren't even lucky enough to get one. And so to actually go and play in the big game, pretty awesome to do that anyway. That, you do it with Atlanta after, I know we talked through kind of the whole back end of your career. I know you kind of felt like you had that home in Cleveland, and the decision to go to Atlanta was something big. So getting that opportunity, and then, really your hometown team, since you played college ball at Cal,
for the Niners to finish off is a pretty sweet place to finish off.
It actually feels really full circle to go start at Cal. Cal was the first real introduction. I mean, San Marcos football in high school was incredible. Loved the time, but they're not a football powerhouse. And then to go to Cal and have a lot of success there and have a great time and live in the Bay Area, and then to travel away to different parts of the country that I would not normally have lived in, and then to come back to the Bay and finish it there it felt great.
Pretty cool. So what after the NFL career now, what's next? I know you and I are going to go fishing somewhere, so that's part of it. But outside of that,
time to do things. I have dreams and aspirations about doing something else. I don't know what it exactly is going to be. I think top of my list would be to, let a little freedom happen and then hunker down. And I think getting an MBA would be exciting. Go to business school, learn a bunch of skills, meet a lot of new people, try to get involved in some business that I enjoy and want to be a part of. And let's do that, and figure out what else. Because I can't just, do nothing for the rest of my life. I think I'll be crazy. Now, what that is, I'm not sure. So if you're hiring and you think it's perfect for me, call me up, reach out to Mike. He'll get back to me.
Exactly.
This is all just a big, elaborate LinkedIn profile promo.
The beauty of it is too, you're at a great place at Cal, right? With great people with those kind of contacts. And also, the NFL networks in terms of guys that are out there doing stuff. It's a pretty good place to be if you're looking for a new challenge. So
yeah,
I expect with your history that you're going to be pretty fantastic at whatever you do. Talk to me about how you got that background as a player, a 4.2 in high school, 3.6 in 3.61. I don't want to, shortchange you that 10th, 3.61 in college. And then winning, it's the Dratty, right? Not the Drady. I keep calling it the Drady.
Dratty.
Yeah, the Dratty.
Now it's the Campbell.
Like how did you do that? How is that part of what you do?
Well, so I was talking about San Marcos football in Santa Barbara. It's not like a big hub of football. So I was a very small recruit. Like no one really offered me many scholarships. And the only reason Cal offered me is because I went to their football camp in the summertime. And they saw me live in person. They're like, this guy is, we want him. So they offered me at the football camp. And I remember walking like up above like the football stadium and seeing the whole Bay and everything else. This is cool. This is going to be hard to beat. And it was. So I get UCLA offered me for defense like really late. But I was hopeful, like, all right, I've tried really hard at football in high school. I now have the ability to get into Cal with that kind of, through that avenue. And football might not be for me. Like if I'm a small recruit and maybe I'm not good enough. So I've always focused on school. I wanted to make sure that whatever I did, I needed to make sure that my education really was important to me. So I really try to focus hard and work and make sure school never took a back step. Football was always really important, but I also wanted to understand that this might not be it. Like, I don't think NFL was in my radar at all. So I focused on school and did that. And I remember I think when I first showed up, I was like, this would be incredible if I could be good enough at football to play in NFL Europe, and I could live in Europe and play sport. That'd be fantastic. And, over the course of college, NFL Europe disbanded, and I overshot the mark a bit and landed right in the NFL.
Yes, but just a little bit.
I mean, very naive, because for the people that played in NFL Europe said it wasn't much fun and it was a lot of work, and it was.
And you didn't get paid anything.
You didn't get paid anything. And so I think this worked out pretty well, but big roundabout way to say that, like, the chances of succeeding in football are so small that I knew my education was going to be a must and needed in the future.
I love that about you, in that, like, I get it. Small school, right? I was a wing T quarterback coming out. I was totally under recruited. Everybody thought of me as a DB. But you're like, they have to get school because football may or probably won't work out. Like, I'm so dialed into that. I love that about you. Everybody else that you see that comes to college in football, especially nowadays, all thinks they're going to be, first round draft pick, play in the NFL, going to be the greatest thing ever, when it's like 0.1% of guys that actually make it for more than a year.
Yeah.
And so it's, I just love the fact that you were so grounded that that's the way you approached it.
Yeah. I remember the first day of like freshman football in high school, our coach like ran through the numbers of how few of us would like have the chance to play in college. And then from there, how few of us would ever play in the NFL. And so their message was like, focus on school. Like, don't think that football is more important than school. And I took that to heart. It was a great message, and I've always lived it. And I happen to be the exception, but you just don't know. And then even once I got drafted, I was always freaked out because any injury will end your career immediately. And the average career is 3.4 years or whatever it is. So I need to save my money. I need to like really work hard. Like, this is not a sure thing. And I have been lucky enough to stay healthy and play 13 years.
Yeah, I love the fact your recruiting trip. I had the same exact experience. I got up on the rim of the stadium, Memorial Stadium, and looked back out towards the bay in San Francisco. I was like, I was just so blown away at the view. And I had, Mariucci recruiting me, and Terry Shea and Bruce Snyder, different staff. You had Tedford staff there recruiting you, but like having that crew recruiting me was and that view, I'm like, I'm done. I'm in. I'm a Cal guy. Yeah. Tell me about your experience at Cal, what that was like for you, and how that prepared you for playing in the NFL. I know one of the things, you can touch on it, about you is you ask a million questions. We did a shooting show together. We did a hunting show together, the fishing show together. And like, you're trying to get all the information that you could get in. And coaches always tell players there's no dumb questions, but players always feel dumb for asking questions. You're like, there is no dumb question. I'm asking everything I can figure out.
Let's go. Let's ask some things. I mean, there probably are some dumb questions. I'm sure I've asked them, but I want to learn. I want to know how things work. I want to get up to speed. I'm a curious person. I want to learn different skills. College was fantastic. I mean, just walking through the campus at Cal and just seeing the big grand buildings, and there's so many people and they're all working really hard. And it's just such an incredible place to go to school and to study and live nearby. Like, I didn't really need a car. You could walk everywhere. I just can't speak high enough for Cal. I think it's an incredible spot in the country. I mean, it's its own little bubble, but there's also a lot right around it. So if you do have a car or you want to take BART into the city, it's 20 minutes away, and you're in this incredible big city that you can absorb yourself into that life. Or you can stay at Berkeley and be just a very small college life, everyone walking distance to each other. I think I went through 5 years of college, and not one person I knew had any car related accident or DUI or anything bad, because everyone just walked everywhere. And it was just incredible experience for this small community of kids to learn and go to school, and the sports aspects and how many sports there are and how big they are and how good the athletics program is. It was just tons of fun. I loved college.
That's awesome. And since it's in the news, right, we have to talk about those two treacherous LA schools in the Pac-12 and kind of get your opinion on what's going on in the Pac-12 right now. It's kind of crazy.
Crazy. We're back to the Pac-10, it looks like.
Which is old school for me, because that's what I played in.
That's what I played in.
Right. That's right. It was after you, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, they added the Pac-12 a year or two after, I think. Yeah. I can't remember exactly when it happened, but it's gonna be tough. Hopefully it all stays together, because I think the old school Pac-10 had great athletics. I think the main problem that the Pac-10 and the West Coast faces is the East Coast, time zone and bias, because I've lived over on the East Coast now. No one watches games on the West Coast. It's just too late. The game starts at 10 p.m. and goes till 2 a.m. I just can't stay awake for that. I'd have to Cal be playing on a Saturday night, and I had to go to sleep because I had a game the next day. So I didn't get really watch as much as I wanted to. All right, well, it's either not on TV for us or it's just there. So I can understand how USC wants to be in a conference that's playing more games in prime time, but it feels like it's just a money grab that's not good for the players, because the kids are now going to have to travel all the way to the East Coast for these games.
It's gonna be crazy,
and it's just going to be very logistical. And I think it hurts because I loved the Pac-10. The competition was great. The schools, all of it was a really fun thing. And the California schools, and you'd have that, the rivalry between the Northern Cal schools and Southern California is real. And to let that go away is just going to hurt.
Yeah, I mean, it's changed, right? They've been arguing all along about amateur sports and college football for years. It's been a business the entire time. Now it's just obviously a business for everybody with the NIL deals and the new conference alignments. I think, a couple of things, in my opinion, happen. Those LA schools are going to get their teeth kicked in because they've got to go, like you said, to Maryland and to Rutgers and to Penn State. And they're doing this in the winter for all these games. The other thing, in my opinion, Cal, if the Pac-10 can hang together, if they can find a way to stay together and get a decent media rights deal, they should be the dominant recruiter in California. Stanford's going to do what they do and recruit nationally. But you go to a home in LA and say, look, you can take a $49 flight to Cal to watch your kid for every single game on the West Coast. Or they're going half the time, they're going to have to fly across country, 5.5, 6 hour flights, getting across country, all the travel, everything else, to come back home and do this, week in, week out. All those Big Ten teams only have to come out here once every other year. SC and UCLA have to make that trip every single time. The closest trip is what, Nebraska? And so
it's not going to be easy for them. It's a lot of time.
Yeah.
Time zone. When you're traveling that way, it's 5 hours to get there and you lose 3 hours. So you might have to miss more school because of this. It's going to be more challenging academically because you're doing that. And I remember the first couple long road trips we did at Cal, I was like, oh, I'll bring my books and study before the game.
Yeah.
Or never touched them. After a couple away games, I was like, I'll do this later. I'll carve out time Sunday afternoon or something when I'm not immediately following or preceding a stressful game. So it's just a lot of travel. And it's not easy. And maybe they'll learn how to do it better than I could. But I quickly learned that with all of football going on, it was hard to let me worry about social studies, whatever class I was taking.
Yeah, it's miserable. And like you said, you do it on Sunday afternoon when you're not after. Well, now you've just traveled 5.5 hours back. You get home at 6 a.m. after a game. Now what? Now what are you going to do? It's going to be miserable for those guys. And so it's going to be a rough trip. I hope it's worth the money because it's definitely not about the student athlete. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Brother, it is awesome having you on. I look forward to being just a small part of your post retirement adventure, getting you out fishing and doing our thing out here. Tell Rachel we said hello, and thank you for coming on Bear Insider. I look forward, hopefully, to seeing you at the Notre Dame game this year, but at a couple Cal games for sure.
Yeah, it'd be fun. I'll have more time to do all the things I've missed out on for 13 years. So I'm excited for the next adventure.
That's the beauty of retirement, right? Getting to get that done. Thank you for coming on. Everybody at home, appreciate you guys watching. For BearInsider.com, I am Mike Pawlawski. This is the Ultimate Insider Podcast. As always, go Bears.